Hello and welcome to this episode. In this video, I'm going to explain to you what data types are, and I'll try to help you to understand the different types of data that you can have in your Python program. Now, from this Wikipedia page, there is a good definition of what a data type is, and I'm going to read that for you, even though I know you can read. So it says, in computer science and computer programming, a data type, or simply type, is an attribute of data which tells the compiler or interpreter how the programmer intends to use the data. This is a very important aspect of the definition, and I want you to take note of this. And if there is anything you would want to remember, or even if there is any takeaway from the content of this page, it is the fact that I would want you to remember that a data type tells the compiler or the interpreter how the programmer intends to use the data. Why is this important? It is important because resources such as RAM or the random access memory, resources such as the random access memory or the RAM in your computer or in any other computer is considered a limited resource. We tend not to almost always have enough RAM for whatever we want to do. Okay, so the compiler or the interpreter has to make judicious use of your RAM, and for it not to waste the already limited resource, it needs to be able to have efficient ways of representing the different types of data that you can store within your programs. Okay, so if you are storing things that are numeric, then the compiler or your interpreter or the processor actually stores these in the RAM in the form of binary digits, and it converts whatever value, whatever numeric value you want to store into binary representation, and then it stores that binary representations in your memory. Okay, let me show you an example here. So if I have a variable, of course we had a variable from the old session. So if I say age is 14. Okay, now from our definition on Wikipedia, let's not forget that it says it tells the compiler or the interpreter, that is a data type, tells the compiler or the interpreter how the programmer intends to use the data. Okay, so the important thing here is that the data type that you assign to your variable is what determines what values the data, what values the variable can hold, and what operations it supports. Okay, so for example, if I have age is equal to 14, as you can see, then if I do something like age plus 29, then you see that it has added 29 to 14, and the result is now 43. Okay, and that is because age is a numeric data type. How did I know that is a numeric data type? Apart from the fact that I know age stores 14 and 14 is a number, there is a way in Python to check the type of a variable, and you use an inbuilt function called type, and then you bring the name of the variable. So once I do this, it is telling me that the type of age, okay, the data type of age is of the class int. We are going to talk about classes and objects in later videos, but for now I want you to remember that whenever you need to check the type, the data type of a variable, then you have to use the inbuilt function called type, and it's going to tell you whether it is an integer, whether it's a string, or any of the other supported data types in Python. Now, the reason is important, like you saw on the Wikipedia page, is that the data type determines the operations that are supported by the variable and the values that can be stored in the variable. Unfortunately, Python is not a statically typed language. Okay, what it means is that now age is 14, but at any point in my code I can change the value of age and store anything in there. So for instance, if I now say age is equal to 14, okay, initially age was an integer, but because I have stored a string in it, and I'm going to explain to you what a string is after the explanation of what an integer is. Okay, but now I have been able to dynamically change the type, the data type of age, and Python determines the data type of a variable based on the value that you store in the variable. So initially when age was 14, like up here, when age was 14, then the data type was an integer because 14 is a number and is an integer. But now I said age is equal to quote 14 and then there's a closing quote. What is the data type of this variable now? Now let's check this by typing this. And you can see that now it's saying it is of a class str, which is a short form of string. So now this brings us to the discussion of strings. What is a string in Python? A string is I would say is a test data, okay, textual data. And whenever you put test in quote, then you are creating a string, okay. So if I say full name is equal to Edward Pi, and I say type of full name, then I expect to see a string because I have these quotes beginning and then the text that are included in there. Now you might wonder, can I create a number even if I put it in a quote? So for instance, if I say age is equal to 24, let's check the type of age. And the type of age is a string, even though you said age is equal to 24. But the way you indicate to Python that you are going to store a string is to precede it with a quote, and then whatever text you want it to store, and then you close it with a closing quote. Okay, so as far as Python is concerned, age is the letter or the digit 2 followed by 4. It has no numerical connotation as far as Python is concerned because you have included it in quote. Okay, but if I come here and I say age is equal to 24, the number, then now if I do type of age, then you can see that age is now an integer. Now there are multiple ways of creating strings, okay. So for instance, if I'm creating a poem, then I can say, now I'm using a single quote, so I can say if things go bad for you and make you a bit ashamed, often you find out that you have yourself to blame. Okay, now even though I'm using a single quote here, this is also a string in Python. So if I check the type of poem, you can see that it is a string. Okay, now this poem could have been typed on multiple lines to make my code much readable. And how do you do multiple lines of text in Python? It's easy. I can say my message is equal to, and then I'll begin with 3 quote. Then now when I press enter, I can keep typing on different lines, and the only way Python will get to know that I am done with this string is when I close it with 3 quotes at the end. So I'm going to type the same poem here. So I'll say if things go bad for you and make you a bit ashamed, often you find out that you have yourself to blame. Okay, and then I'll do this. Okay, so the way to write a multi-line string or multi-line text in Python is when you use triple quote, and then you have to close it at the end with triple quotes as well. So if I try to print message, and you know what the print function does. So if I try to print message, you see that it printed just as I typed it because it was a multi-line string. And if I do print poem, it's also going to print it. So remember that you can create strings in Python using single quote, double quote, or triple quote if you want to let your text span multiple lines. Okay, now because we are dealing with strings, I'm going to show you another thing that you can do as far as strings are concerned. Okay, so if I do something like this, let's say I'm going to create a message that I want to format nicely. So I'll say message is equal to I'm using a German keyboard here. Okay, I found which key is going to help me do that. So if I do something like welcome, then I do /t/t to programming. Now I'm going to print message, and you see that it says welcome, and there's a big space here before it goes to programming. You might wonder why this big space over here, and the reason is because of the /t/t, and these are called escape sequences. Let me type it here. So it is called an escape sequence. Okay, and these are special characters that you include in your text or your string, and Python knows that you want to do something special, and they always begin with a slash. Okay, there's a backslash. Okay, now if you do /t, it means you want Python to insert a tab, and you know a tab on your keyboard is equal to 8 spaces. So see, if I press A and I press tab, sorry, if I press tab on the keyboard, you see that it moves 4 spaces, and if I press tab again, it moves another 4 spaces. So once I did message is equal to welcome /t/t to programming, what I actually did was I said welcome, and then I left 8 spaces, and then I continued with to programming. So if I print message, you can see that unless you are using it in the print statement, it is just a variable, so it returns exactly what is there. But if I use it in the print statement, then Python knows that it has to treat the /t specially because it's an escape sequence. Let's try another thing. So I'm going to type the poem again, and I'm going to say if things go bad for you. Okay, and I'll say /n and make you bit ashamed. Okay, and I'll say /n often you find out that /n you have yourself to blame, and I'm going to close it. Now if I print poem, you see that it breaks them onto different lines the moment it encounters a /n. So look at here where I have highlighted. You can see that it printed if things go bad for you. Now the /n is a new line character, is an escape sequence that tells Python that whatever follows has to be printed on a different line. So once I say if things go bad for you /n, so you see that it printed if things go bad for you, and then the /n will put the cursor at the start of the next line, and then it prints and make you bit ashamed, and then there's a /n. Often you find out that there's a /n which is here, and then it says you have yourself to blame, and so it continued over here. So there are many escape sequences that you can use in your program, and I will advise you to read about escape sequences in Python. But the takeaway from here is for you to be able to create strings, you need either the single quote, the double quote, or triple quote if you want to create your text on multiple lines. Okay, now I have so much more to show you about the different data types in Python, but because this video is getting long, I'm going to stop here, and in the next video I'm going to focus on numeric data types. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.